we all know that tackling weight, well, it often means complex lifestyle changes, right? But what if there's a sort of sophisticated shortcut right inside your gut? Can changing your gut microbiome, actually seeding your body with specific good bacteria, be the weight loss hack people are looking for?
That really is the big question we're tackling today. We did a deep dive into the clinical evidence, looking really closely at probiotics and symbiotics for, reducing body mass. The scientific idea, it's pretty established. People struggling with weight often show an altered gut environment. We call it dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis, right?
Yeah, often involving an imbalance, say, between Bacteroidetes and Firmicutes bacteria. The hope is to sort of correct that.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're talking pills, powders.
Yeah.
What does the actual evidence say?
hmm
Does this, biological hack really lead to significant weight loss? Does it work?
Well, the initial data, especially from randomized trials, it looks quite positive. We looked at 27 studies, and 23 of them actually observed a positive effect.
23 out of 27. That's substantial.
It is, either on weight loss directly or related things like waist circumference. And this was typically over about 12 weeks. So yes, the potential seems genuine. And strains from the Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium families, those seem to be the most promising players here.
Right, and this is where it gets really specific and honestly quite fascinating. We've got a couple of standout examples from the research. First, there's this Lactobacillus gastric strain, SBT 20755. Studies showed it reduced BMI, waist, hip measurements, and crucially, that abdominal visceral fat.
Exactly. And that connects right to the second one, Bifidobacterium animalis subsubstia lactis, specifically the BPL1 strain. One study made a pretty bold comparison. They noted that losing just 3 square centimeters of visceral fat with BPL1, that was comparable to losing 14 to 18 kilograms of weight through diet or drugs.
Hold on, that's a huge claim, equivalent to 14, 18 kilos, just from that fat reduction.
It's a striking comparison, yeah. Essentially suggesting a very targeted impact on that dangerous visceral fat, the stuff around your organs.
Did the researchers qualify that comparison at all? Or was it presented just like that?
They presented it quite strongly, but, and this is important context, most of these successful trials didn't use probiotics in isolation.
Oh,
Right. It was usually probiotics plus caloric restriction or more exercise. So it often acts as a booster and adjuvant effect. Though, to be fair, some specific strains did show effects even without those lifestyle changes.
Okay, that makes more sense. Now let's pivot a bit. There's this common idea, right? If it doesn't help, it won't hurt. What does the critical research say about just assuming probiotics are harmless?
Yeah, that assumption gets challenged quite strongly. We have to remember, probiotics are live microorganisms. They're prokaryotes, and they can carry, well, potentially hostile factors. The main worry is something called horizontal gene transfer, or HGT.
HGT sounds technical, like what we're...
Think of it like unwanted software updates between bacteria. The probiotic you swallow, a temporary visitor, could pass on genes like antibiotic resistance genes to the permanent residents of your gut and the gut. It's actually an ideal environment for this kind of gene swapping to happen.
Wow. So you could be accidentally upgrading your own bacteria with dangerous traits like antibiotic resistance. That sounds risky.
It is a known biological risk, yes.
So if HGT is a known risk, why are these things still widely available? Often under that GRAS status, generally regarded as safe. Where's the regulatory catch-up?
That really hits on the confusion in the regulatory landscape, and GRAS status often predates a lot of this newer understanding, but the risks don't stop at HGT. There's also evidence linking probiotic consumption, especially maybe overconsumption, to something called D-lactic acidosis.
D-lactic acidosis. What does that mean for someone taking probiotics?
Well, particularly if you already have an issue like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, flooding your system with more bacteria can cause problems. Basically, too much bacterial activity in the wrong place produces this D-lactic acid. And that seems to be linked to metabolic issues, even neurological symptoms. People report debilitating brain fogginess, plus, gas and bloating.
Brain fogginess, that's worrying.
It is. And adding to the whole messy picture, regulatory bodies like the European Food Safety Authority, ESSA, they've rejected nearly all health claims for probiotics, basically saying the evidence isn't convincing enough, except for maybe lactose intolerance.
So EXSA is skeptical, but products are still sold widely, often relying on that older DRIASAN status you mentioned.
Exactly. It leaves consumers and even healthcare providers in a really confusing spot.
Okay, so we definitely have this tension. On one hand, some really exciting, very specific data about certain strains potentially tackling dangerous fat, but on the other,
Clear warnings. Biological risks like HGT and lactic acidosis, plus significant gaps in regulation. You, the consumer, are navigating this with very little solid guidance.
So what's the path forward then?
Well, it's certainly not about grabbing just any generic probiotic off the shelf. The future has to be in highly specific, evidence-backed strains. We need clinical proof. And ideally, more studies in well-defined groups of people without them also being on strict diet so we can really isolate what the probiotic itself is doing or not doing.
Right, separating the effects. And that leads to a final thought. If the success of any probiotic truly depends on the unique mix of microbes already living inside you, how long before getting a personalized map of your own gut microbiome becomes, well, essential, a prerequisite before you even consider taking one of these supplements? And that's definitely something to chew on.